There we go. So don't forget those chapter quizzes. And I will, if there's not a date on them, I can fix them. Let me know if there's missing a date, if it's not showing up in your calendar. I realize that a couple of them were not showing up. Let's see. The Access, I think all the Excel ones are. Let's check. Yeah, it looks like the Excel ones have a date. Some of the Access ones coming up, I haven't put a date on them yet. And we'll be putting, we'll be doing some more things there as well with Access. But before Access comes along, we would like to get some work done, just making sure we're comfortable out there in the cloud, getting data as well as graphing it. So far, I'm going to do the getting the data for you here in this particular project. So let's take a look at what this assignment is. We go down here in your assignments link on Schoology. Oh, I'm going to be doing this as Mr. John Smart. Now I'll go to this course over here. Down here in assignments, cloud spreadsheet data analysis. The point of this project is to make sure you're familiar with something other than Excel, and you'll find when you work with spreadsheets that many of them are very much like Excel. So knowing how it's done in Excel, you now know how to do most spreadsheets because they're pretty much following very closely the same type of behavior. But let's test that because it's not exactly the same. What I have done for you is I have actually provided for you a spreadsheet that has data in it already. After we work with this and make a graph of this, we may spend a little time figuring out how in the world can you get this data once you find out how powerful this is. But just to get started and to save you some time, I have given you a spreadsheet with data in it already. So I click on that, and that takes me to the spreadsheet that has been shared for you. What you want to do is make a copy of that by going File, Make a Copy. Now, if you have File, Make a Copy is not darkened for you, that means you need to log in to your Emmaus Gmail account, or any Gmail account will work, but your Emmaus Gmail account is a great place to go. If you're logged in and then you open the spreadsheet, and if you may need to do a refresh, you should see File, Make a Copy available to you. But it won't show you as being able to make a copy until you have some place to put it. It's not that it won't share it with you, it's that, hey, there's no place to make a copy because you're not logged in. Now notice it does let you download it as an Excel spreadsheet and then work on it in Excel, but the point of this is to work on this in something other than Excel. So make a copy so now you're out in your spreadsheet world with your own copy of this spreadsheet. Okay, so File, Make a Copy, and I'm going to call it JSmart Section 2. And just for a little practice and out there in your Google Drive, if you're not familiar with that, you can actually, when you make a copy, you can decide where to put it, and I can choose on my drive, and then I can browse to Fall 23, and save my file, my Google document, in that location in my Google Drive. And now make a copy, creates a copy of that file in that location. So cloud spreadsheet assignment, open this, make a copy by logging in so you have access to your Google Drive, and then you can edit your version of this spreadsheet. I'm going to close the old version because I have both of them there and I get easily confused by which one is which. I can tell this one is the one being shared because I see many others. Some are not logged in yet, so they're showing up as little anonymous icons. So I can tell some people are viewing it not yet being logged in. This is another cool thing about working on spreadsheets in the cloud is you can share them live with others. You can do that on OneDrive as well, but Google was doing it first, and I think they make it a little more convenient. You can actually all be looking at the same document, and one person can be in charge and everyone can be editing it or viewing it, or you can give everyone edit permission and watch what happens as they edit the same document together. Maybe that's been some interesting activities in the past. So I can close that one now, and that I have my own copy, and you can see that no one else is viewing my copy of it because I haven't shared it. All right, so we have this data that I've provided for you. All the data is sitting here in column 1. I have copied and pasted it or opened a data file that someone has provided for me. Now the source of the data, that's where your actual skills will come in, is finding data out there on the internet that may be useful to you. This data is river data, and let's just take a look at what information we have here. We have apparently first row has to do with, it looks like the headings that give meanings to the columns below. Row 2, I have no idea what that is, so I'm going to delete row 2. But these do seem to indicate the column. There's the agency, some site number, that's all the same number. The date and time, yep, that looks like a date and time. And it looks like every 15 minutes my data is being collected. I've got a lot of data here. Time zone, Central Standard Time. And then the some measurement. I'm assuming that is in feet, but we're not interested in that for now. Unless that was what was in row 2. Did row 2 tell us? No, row 2 doesn't tell us what the units are. So I guess I still don't need. Haven't figured out what row 2 is about yet. And I don't know what the letter A is about. But my problem is I care about this piece of data right here, the 10.0, 10.02, 10.04. I want to graph that column. And let's see how much data I have. Let's see. I'm on the first set of the data. Let's keep that row heading and maybe the first couple rows of data. I'm going to click on row 3, and I want to freeze up to row 3. That's not changing the data. That's just freezing that row. So now I can slide down to the end of my data on the bottom side of my graph. So being able to freeze a row and column is most useful when I have huge amounts of data. Look at this. I've got 34,000 measurements. And yet, I'm not seeing a huge delay in accessing that data. That's pretty impressive that I have that much data and I'm not super slow. Now, if I had an older computer, it'd probably be going really slow. So now I can view the data, the header, the data all the way to the bottom, but I still have a problem. If I want to graph something, I need to somehow have this information in a separate column. So what is possible to do with this data? Let's just click on column A. That's the data I want to do something with. And let's see what's available to me under the data menu. Let's see what I can do. I can sort it. I don't think I need to sort the sheet. I can sort the range. I don't think I need to sort the range. No filter views. I don't even have a clue what a slicer is. Name function, randomize, column, data cleanup. Oh, there we go. Split text to columns. I can split that text into separate columns, and maybe that will let me graph one of the columns. Data extraction sounds interesting too, but let's just try split text to columns. Now it says there, and it should be giving me a spinner right now, telling me it's doing something. It just kind of delayed until it actually did split the columns. It would have been helpful for it to do a spinner so I knew it was doing something, and then I wouldn't have wanted to click on it 1,000 times. Now I have separate columns, a date. It looks like I have a date that goes with every row of data. This data looks interesting, and I'm going to rename this cell to be the height. I'm assuming that's in feet, but I'm just guessing on that. But I would like to graph this data, as I think this is interesting. And let's see, just slide through it. I'll see that the data kind of ranges from 10 to 8. Oh, it went up to 17 at some point. So I can kind of tell what the graph is going to look like, sort of. But visually, I'd like to see a graph of that. So to graph that, I just select column E, and now insert chart. And once I click insert chart, it's going to again think for a while. And now I can decide what kind of chart I want. I'm going to change it from a column chart to a line chart. And it's kind of a pain to be sitting here right on top of my data. So I'd like this to be on a separate spreadsheet. Let's click on the 3 dots there and move to its own sheet. Now I have a sheet with that chart of data. Double click and give it a name of river data, a river height. I think it was 2021 to 2022. Let's call this sheet, double click, let's call that the raw data, raw river height data. So remember what I did. I split the data into separate columns. Then I just decided to graph just the one column by insert chart and then move the chart to its own sheet. We need it to work a little better now, or look a little better. We are seeing data, and if I hover over it, I get numbers. But I don't know what date is associated with that number, because remember, we didn't chart the date, we only charted the data. So it could be more useful if I knew what date was that when it reached 20.33. Well, let's go to Edit Chart and see what we can do. Let's see. I've got the type of chart, I'm good with that. The data range I'm graphing, I'm good with that. I would like to have an x-axis, which would be the dates that were on the raw river height data. Let's see how I can do that. X-axis. I was confused because I hadn't done this for a while, that this little guy here is actually, think of that as a plus sign of data that I want to make my x-axis. It's not, I don't think it's very obvious at all that hovering over this little icon allows you to go select what range your x-axis is going to be. So remember how what I'm doing here. I came to Edit Chart, add x-axis, choose my data range for my x-axis. So I'm going to click on that, and it gives me this little thing, select a range. What can I do with that? What I want to do is actually have it be that column that contained the date and time. Let's see if I can get over there and select that column. Let's click here. Lets me get there, and I can choose column C. It looks like that will give me an x-axis. I click OK, and let's see if it does it. Look at that. Now I have dates across the x-axis. Let me do that again. That wasn't terribly obvious how that all worked. I moved my data to a separate sheet, Edit Chart, add x-axis, choose the data range, call this the data range collector. I now simply go over to where my data is, select that column of data. Oh, you'd think that it, let's try OK. It's not doing it. Oh, maybe because I move things around. There, now it did it. I'm not sure why I had to click off of it and come back to it. Now I have that data range. This is something that you learn. This is a little more advanced here. When you're referring to cells, if you want to refer to a cell on another worksheet in the same workbook, you would just have to put the name of that tab, of that sheet, in quotes, exclamation point, and then the range on that other page. So you can refer to data on another page in your spreadsheet. Something that's a little more advanced, again, in your Excel skills. You won't come across this terribly often until you start getting large data sets where you want to refer to data that's held in another spreadsheet. Here's how we refer to another page, and then our row and column. And if I want the entire column, see how I can refer to the entire column? C:C just means give me all the data you find in column C. And this does the same thing in Excel as well. This referring to another row or another set of data on another sheet in my workbook. I click OK, and because there's a lot of data, it has to think for a while. Now when I hover over my data, I can see what date was associated with that particular height in my river. Anyone having any trouble getting that far? We opened the data sheet in Google, made our own copy, selected the column, created a chart from that column, moved the chart to its own sheet, and then when we did the editing, we added that x-axis of the time column. Now we got a little more work to do. We also would like to have a chart. This is a lovely chart. I can sort of tell what it is based on the name on my tab, but let's put the title right here on my chart. That would be over here in the Customize portion. Customize Chart and Axis Titles. This is a little bit different than Excel. That shows me what I can change. Now I click that, and then I put the title here in this little box here. So I don't make text boxes over here like in Excel. I choose my titles here, and then choose what item I'm going to change, and then edit it here. Let's put in here JSmart, and put your username in there. River data graph. Now, a lot of the load in doing this work with all these numbers is being handled in your browser. Some of it is downloading more data from Google. But once we have the data, our browser is doing a lot of work here for us. So we have the chart title. Let's see, what other can we change? Let's change our chart subtitle to be the year of the data, 2022. When is the first? Let's see. If I hover over it, the first piece of data. Do I have a date? It's not showing me my date. I guess I have to stop editing it. Let's just say it looks like it's 2022. All right, so chart subtitle 2022. And what else can I change? I can change my horizontal axis title. Let's put that be the date of measurement. And vertical axis, I'm assuming that is the height in feet. And it's already rotated for me. It doesn't give me as many options as Excel. It looks like I can click over there and actually edit it in that location. Can I move my, I don't know if I can move my data. Looks like I might be able to center it. But it looks like I can edit it by clicking on the text as well. What else can I do? I have titles. I can mess with what data I am graphing, and I can choose the color of the data line. I can decide what kind of line is being graphed, how thick it is. I think I'd go with the thinnest right now since there's a lot of graphs. I could adjust the size of my points. Not sure what use that is. I could decide where my axis is being labeled. Oh, look at that. It looks like I could have both a left and right axis. That's interesting. And I could add points, error bars, labels, lots of fun things I could do with my graph. If I had multiple data lines I was graphing, I could provide some sort of theme or legend. Since I'm only graphing one thing, I don't think I need a legend to say red is the height. Lots of capabilities here. Turn on or off the grid lines or the spacing in between them. And let's see, the chart, it looks like I can even give my text a color. And then I can close the editor. The data is not being changed, the appearance of it. So I can hover over any piece of this data now and see that the height at that location, or that time and date. Now, the location, I think I told you that in the data. I suppose that might be useful to know. That was data from the Missouri River. I don't think it tells you where actually on the river it was. That might be something useful. So now you know how to create charts and graphs using Google Spreadsheets, and the rest of the abilities like selecting cells, navigating, those are very similar to Excel. The format that you put things in is up here under the format menu, the old style pull down menus to adjust anything having to do with the data. I could even alternate colors in my data. I don't want to worry about the data because I know any operation on this sheet, 34,000 lines, might slow me down a bit. But a nice way for you now to have the ability to look at any data that you gather from somewhere, and based on some graphs, perhaps something in that data pops out at you, like something interesting to me is, did this happen from, let's see, that's the 528, the next peak was 602. What was going on that year? Did we have some heavy rainfall about a week or so apart? And how soon after the rain, how much rain did we get? And we see the change from 10 to 20. 10 foot, about a 10-foot change within a short time period. Could I go back and measure, or get other data that shows me the rainfall? How did that affect these spikes? Did the rainfall happen a day or two before I saw the spike in the river? Lots of things I could figure out as I analyze that data. For farmers, for people dealing with wells, or interested in wildlife and the water amount. There's so much that this might tell you about the world just with this one measurement. Now let's take a look. Have we done what we needed to do here? We split column A into separate columns. We chose the height data that I wanted to graph. And it's actually every 15 minutes. If I look on the data itself, I can see it's graphed or collected based on the time. I can see that every 15 minutes I have the data. Perhaps I don't need so much, and I could do other things to consolidate the data, get the average of each day. Might make things go a little quicker. I've created a chart, put some titles and axes on it. Now the question here, can I predict future floods? What do you think? Can I predict future floods based on this data? I have the whole year of measurement. Is that enough for me to predict floods? maybe 10 years of data and the average. And if it was always peaking around June, that would be something that, again, collecting more data and looking at the historical data, comparing every year, or is it sort of random? Or can I say, we're expecting the flood around June if it's going to be one? People are doing this with data right now, collecting carbon measurements in the atmosphere, putting into huge computer models, figuring out and predicting whether or not there's going to be major instabilities in our climate. They call it climate change. I prefer climate stability as a term for that. I think that makes more sense. Back in my high school days, it was global warming, and then they changed their mind. It was global cooling. And then in the 90s, it's like, well, we don't know. It's just getting worse. So we'll just call it climate is changing. Now, can you get your own data and plot this? We have right now 2021 all the way out to 2022 November. Could we get the next year's data and add this? Well, let's see what we could do. We go out online and search for Missouri River data. If you're in business or you have a specialty in any particular market and you want to predict something, I bet you AI is going to be helping you do this even more efficiently. Collecting data that's out there for free most of the time can help you make major decisions for your business. If you know a particular commodity that your uncle is selling or that you have decided you're going to invest in, when should you buy and when should you sell? And the general rule is buy low, sell high. If you can predict that based on some data that you can find out there that is reliable, that you somehow trust, perhaps you could predict before someone else that the price of something is going up. You're going to buy a lot of it, and the price goes up, and then you sell. You've just made yourself lots of money. People are doing that every day out there out on the internet, and that data is out there for most people to grab. Some places charge money for it. Let's see if I can get, there's current water data, and there's historical water data. Let's just go to current water data, and let's see if they give us a place to get data. Let's see here. I can go click on a particular location in Missouri by control scrolling, and I don't know where the river is. I'm assuming this is this St. Louis? That's Wanda. I'm looking for the Missouri. Oh, sorry, St. Louis is over here. Got the wrong side of the river. There's the Missouri River. So Missouri River in St. Louis. I'm going to click on that and see if it shows up data. Kansas City, Missouri. And it gives me the gauge height there in Missouri. Oh, today. And if I zoom out, or I just roll the scroll bar, I can see it'll give me the data back to, it looks like, October 25th, 2023. So just a few days of data. Can I get more data than that? Let's see. What do they have here? Can I get, view data records, download data. Let's go to the download data, see what I can do in terms of getting data. Let's see if I can get data from there. Oh, look at that. There's Water Data Services. That's where they're getting their data from. Let's try, can I choose a different time span? Change time span. Let's see, can I get the data from last year to today? So let's go back a year. November 1st, 2022. Oh, there we go. So November 1st, 2022 to today. And let's see if it will give me that data. It's refreshing. Oh, it looks like it does have that data. Let's download that and see if I can put it and add it to my current graph. So I went, found Missouri River data, Kansas City, change my time span, and now let's see if I can download that data. And I guess I have to click retrieve to go get the data. Primary, yeah, select data to retrieve. I guess I have to click one of those. There we go, now I'll retrieve. Ooh, there's the data. How about I just select and copy paste? Lots of data. Going all the way to the bottom and shift select, Control C copy. Now I have the data. It looks like it is in the same format as the one I already have. Now another way to do this would be download the file, then import it. That's a little more painful. Let's see if I can just copy paste it. Now I'm over here back to my spreadsheet. Let's put another workbook and paste. There's my new data. Remember, I have to split it into columns first so I can access that column. Data, split text to columns. Now I have this column, column F here, now will be new data to plot. Well, it does have a different time span, but let's go ahead and see if I can add that to my chart. Let's call this 2022 to 23 data. Remember how I can customize my chart? Let's see. River height. Let's go to Edit Chart. I want to add more data to be graphed. Well, I just go choose more data here by clicking Select Data Range. And now I can come back here to this chart here. Oh, add another range. Or did it already choose it? Raw height data. Let's add another range. And I'm going to choose 22-23 data, column F. I have to move this out of my column F. There we go. There's 2022-23 data, column F, and click OK. Let's see what happens. It should show, I'm hoping it's going to show another line on my chart. It's not showing another line. Did I do something wrong? Maybe I have to click Add Series instead. And it doesn't look like it actually got added. Let's try Add Series. There's the 2023 data. And there it does. It's an ugly color though. Let's change the color of that. Customize. I want to change the color of that line. Hard to tell. Let's do series. I want to give it a different color. Let's see. Line 2. Let's change his color. How about that? Now I have 2 years, and it's showing me that maybe that data I can't do just by overlapping 2 years. I don't see the big hump in June. There's spikes. It's making me feel, well, maybe it's kind of random. And maybe if I studied more years, I might see, well, the spikes cluster around June, but maybe it's not as predictable based on historical data as I was hoping. This same kind of thing happens in stock prices. You see the same trend. Well, past performance is no guarantee of future results. Yes, question.
Can you go over again how you got both charts on the same?
Yeah, because that was a little tricky. Yep. So I'll do it again here. I'm going to go to my new data. Did you get the new data in?
Yes.
paste it in and split it into columns. And then I went over to my chart, and underneath Edit Chart, I'll go do this again. I'm going to remove this series and re-edit. So I'm going to remove that series. And I thought I could do it here in data range, but I went down here and I did a add series, and can go select that, select a data range. Then I went over to the 2023 data, selected column C, and that showed the data range, and I clicked OK. Now that series is available in my chart, and I went up here on my horizontal axis and I added that for my horizontal axis. And how did I get dates in there? I want to remove this. This isn't the right. I do want that. That's my x-axis. X-axis is. Oh, I messed it up. Let's get rid of a few of these. Let's see. I don't need that one. There we go. So then I add an x-axis with the height from 22, 23. Ooh, that's interesting. How did that happen? Let's try it here. Add series, that height from 22, 23. There we go. Don't add it as an x-axis. That really messed it up. Add it as a series. The one thing painful about this is because I have so much data, 34,000, every time I do something, there's a little bit of a delay. So I probably should have chosen less data and then graph that, get all the customizing figured out, and then choose the entire set. So the key here is, let's go back to our assignment, make sure we did everything. We've got this, and the answer to this question is no, I don't think there's enough data to predict the future floods. Although it's somewhat interesting, I can see some trends. It looks like late winter, I'm not, at least these 2 years, I didn't have to worry much about floods in late winter. Oh, I lost my horizontal axis here. But later on, I could just say, well, the risk is higher spring, summer, which is pretty common sense. Let me get my date back in there. Edit chart. That's right. My x-axis needs to be the column C. That's the x-axis. There we go. X-axis has to be the date, not the height, or you got weird things going on. So now I could say, well, around this date is the, at least for these 2 years, around looks like around January is when things seem to go low, at least those 2 years. And I'd have to look at the chart for multiple years and maybe have an average river height across those. Okay, so back to our assignment. Is there enough data? Nope. Data mining. We did this. We added the time, date information to the horizontal axis. So it looks like the key here is, when you edit your chart, you have all your series there listed here. You decide what to do with those series up here as you chart them. The x-axis I chose column C, The other two were the graphed data. But how that all works takes a little practice. Basically work with some data, generate charts, play with the customize and the setup. The setup is probably the trickiest to figure out what does this mean. Combine ranges horizontally, what the x-axis means, what aggregate means. I haven't even played with aggregate. Let's see what happens if I try aggregate. Aggregate, I think, is what let's see what that does. I'm not sure what that did for me except to make my horizontal labels a lot more complex. My data, it did have a row as a header. I'm not sure if that matters, because back here in the raw data, I think it may just ignore that first row since he doesn't know what to do with that data. So pretty cool capabilities. We're going to look at more capabilities the next time. We're going to actually look at geographical data, and you can actually map that on a map. It used to be able to be done in Google Spreadsheets. They made it harder to do, where you could actually map things. But we'll go back to Excel for that. So that was it for today. Basically knowing how to bring in data from anywhere on the internet. Your skills will be coming in where to find that data. And if you use AI to start finding data, which people are going to start doing, I don't know if you've been checking the news, there is Europe and just recently the US is trying to implement laws about AI. And I just think once the government gets involved in anything technical, they usually mess it up. Maybe there's some rules that we need in there, but most of the people doing legislation really don't know the technology, and they're going by their choice of advisors. There's so many ways that AI could be misused, but to try to get the government in there to tell you how to use it, I think it's going to be a kind of a load and slowing down technology, where other countries that have the technology have no rules. They're going to use it for however they like, no matter what the world says about rules. So AI will allow you to find data like this. You can still use your own personal skills to do search for data like I did here. I came here, played around with this, how to figure out, oh, let's download the data. Once I had the data, once I saw this, I knew I could copy paste that into Excel or Google Spreadsheet and split it into columns. That's the part that most people don't know about. How to get the data from the raw format into something that I can graph. But now you know, all I have to do is paste the data after copying it, Control-C copy, Control-V paste. Once I have the data, then it's just a matter of, you've just learned I can split it into columns. If I see it's all formed into one column. Splitting into columns, now I know how to graph. Oh, that's the data I want to graph. Click once, insert chart, and I've got that entire column graphed. Did I do the wrong column? That's a crazy good looking graph. Yeah, I chose the wrong column. There's the column. I graphed the time of the day throughout the year every 15 minutes. Now let's do the insert chart. It figures out what kind of chart even, and I can say, oh, I want a different kind of chart, make it a line chart. But it gave me a chart just by clicking on that, and then I have all my other capabilities. But all I needed to know, this is something that most people won't know, how to find the data, copy paste it, or import it. Once it's in, make it into some usable format that then lets me chart it. So that's the steps that I want you to be comfortable with. Being able to get data, put it in a spreadsheet. We call it massaging the data, or transforming the data into something where I can graph it Remember, to do the graph, I had to break that one column into multiple columns, so then I could just focus on that particular column to graph. There are people out there that make money by doing what we call data mining. They go out on the internet, find data that might be useful to a company or a business or investors, and they find ways to make predictions about that. If you can predict the rise of a price 10 seconds before everyone else is buying it, you may have an advantage and be able to make lots of money, or predict what business to get into or how many people to hire next year based on the growth you're seeing. All that packed into the data. So now you can be data wizards and graph to your heart's content, either with Excel or Google Spreadsheets. All right, we'll end there. Remember, it's Advising Chapel today.